Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Susie. I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner, and today I want to do an overview of the astral realm. The reason I want to do this overview is I was talking to one of my daughters who is very connected to the astral plane, and she was explaining to me about how busy the astral plane is at the moment and all of her different experiences. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to share with you what I have learned about the astral plane, but very much in overview form. If you listen to today's episode and you really want to get a deeper dive into this topic, I do recommend my membership. We have spent 4 sessions, at least 90 minutes each, just on the astral plane, and we're due to do a 5th session in November, which is going to be about psychic attacks and energetic protection. That will complete our Astral Realm series. If you would like to join the membership, I will put a link in the show notes below. All you do whenever you are listening to this podcast episode is you pick the next members only live, which will be on my appointments page. Once you sign up for the members only live, you will then receive an email from me with a password, which will get you into the membership area. In the members area, you're going to find all of my previous workshops. There's about 45 hours of content in there at the moment on topics such as soul contracts, working with the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra, starseed workshop, Lemurian Atlantis. There's lots of really good deep dives into specific topics. As I said, we're just wrapping up the Astral Realm series. They are always available in the members area, so you can watch them in your own time. Also, if you do decide to join the membership, you receive a discount code for 20% off one-on-one sessions with me. And you also have the opportunity to come on live once a month to go through various different topics. I have such a good, fun schedule planned for the membership in 2025. We do a deeper dive into specific topics that the members are interested in, and I would love to see you all there. I have also added a podcast page to my website, and on that page there is a form that you can fill in to submit your questions, or if there's just a topic that you would like to hear me do a deeper dive on the podcast, you can submit it there. I will put a link in the show notes for that as well. I have a few listeners' questions that I'm going to make episodes answering those questions, and I would love to hear from you all through that. Before I get into the bulk of today's conversation, I want to answer the question as to why am I even talking about the astral realm. I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner, and as you will have heard me say before, the Akashic Records exist in the higher spiritual realms, so the 5th dimension and above. So why am I talking about the astral realm? First of all, lots of people will have an experience with the fake versions of the Akashic Records in the astral realm. So to understand why there's different fake versions and what the astral realm is all about, it is important that we have this conversation. Secondly, a lot of people who come to me for training in the Akashic Records will have done training previously on perhaps learning how to channel, how to strengthen their intuition, working with different systems. And there seems to be this narrative among people that it's completely okay to open up and channel anything, that you should trust any information that you're getting through. You don't have to know where it's from. It's all good. And this is becoming quite dangerous because we have to understand on the spiritual journey, not everything is love and light. There seems to be this tendency to want to bypass the stage of soul evolution that the astral realm offers. Not only that, it often diminishes or ignores people's actual experience. A lot of the time, people who have perhaps undertaken spiritual development in previous incarnations, when they come into this incarnation, they may be very astrally connected from birth, and they may have difficult experiences where they don't have a pleasant experience with certain beings, with certain energies, and they shut themselves down. I know this definitely happened to myself, and it happened to a lot of the people that I've taught. So what will happen is they will shut themselves off from connecting into different energies, different beings, and shut down all of their abilities because they're scared. And I don't ever want anyone to be scared of doing their spiritual development and strengthening that internal navigation system. What I want to do is I want to share information that empowers you so that when you do come across this particular level of development, you're able to navigate through it empowered and educated. I want to talk about this today so that you can understand why it's important, and then of course give you some tips if you are working on this stage of your development to help you navigate through this. On your spiritual journey, what is happening is your consciousness is expanding. You are starting to come into contact with and connecting to different energies that can't be seen or heard with our traditional third dimensional senses. Lots of you will be living most of your daily life in a fourth dimensional level of consciousness, which is very connected to the astral plane. A lot of the time, people will think of the astral plane as something that they are only accessing when they are consciously astral projecting, when they are dreaming, when they are taking plant medicine. And all of those ways are ways that you do come into direct contact with the astral plane. But because of the level of consciousness, the level of evolution of consciousness, lots of you will actually be connecting into this plane during your conscious waking life. At this level of consciousness, there is still the illusion of duality. Whilst everything is one, while everything comes from source consciousness, we can't impose that fifth dimensional level of complete unconditional love, oneness, everything coming from source onto the fourth dimension, because in that fourth dimensional space, in the astral realm space, we are still under the influence of an evolutionary stream of consciousness and a devolutionary stream of consciousness. The point of going through this stage of evolution from a soul's perspective and coming into contact with the astral plane is to learn discernment, and discernment between what is evolutionary and what is devolutionary, what is helpful for my soul and what is hindering my soul's evolution. And in traditional esoteric systems, this was known as the first initiation, learning how to navigate your way through the astral plane. Some of you may not have to do this in this lifetime, but if you are one of the people who is feeling very connected to the astral plane and you're experiencing this level of consciousness, then this podcast episode is for you specifically. Remember, with dimensions, even though we talk about 3D, 4D, 5D in a linear fashion as though there's a start point and an end point, actually how they are experienced is one on top of the other. So think of a set of Russian dolls that each dimension contains within it all the dimensions below it. So the fifth dimension, for example, contains the fourth and the third dimensions within it. And as you're evolving and developing as a soul, what's happening is you're moving through these different dimensions. And lots of you will have experiences of the third dimension, fourth dimension, and fifth dimension throughout your daily life. If you are unsure as to what I'm talking about here, I would recommend going back to my podcast episode on 3D, 4D, and 5D, which gives you a deeper look into kind of what the signs are that you're experiencing each of those different levels of consciousness. The astral realm itself is absolutely huge, beyond comparison, beyond understanding of our human linear mind. There are worlds and universes and galaxies within worlds and universes and galaxies. For ease of conversation, we're going to split the astral plane into the lower astral plane, the middle astral plane, and the higher astral plane, just so you can start to get a feel for the different types of experiences and different types of beings that you may come across when you are connecting into that astral plane. For those of you who are operating at this astral or fourth dimensional level of consciousness, this is where you really have an awakening of the heart chakra. And reality starts to become a lot more fluid and flexible. What I mean by that is time starts to feel very fluid. You start to experience signs and synchronicities. You're going through this expansion of consciousness, and it's this desire to be more connected to your soul. You may start receiving guidance and information from your guide team, and you may also start to really feel connected to the clair senses, which are of course that interface with the astral plane and beyond. So it's this mixed state gateway, and you'll often see the astral realm referred to as the mirror realm. Think of a time when you have gone to sleep and you have been in a place that you're familiar with, but it's a bit different. The buildings may be a little bit different, and you may experience time in a different way. You may have only technically been in the sleep state for 5 minutes max, but in that dream state, you have experienced a week of your life. This is the fourth dimension, the astral realm. And this is what we would refer to as the middle astral plane or the mirror realm. So it's a reflection of reality. And for those of you who are operating at that fourth dimensional level of consciousness, this mixed state is something you're going to experience not only when you go to sleep, but also in your conscious waking life. A good indication that you are operating from this level of consciousness is that when you do dream, that you are a lucid dreamer, either partially lucid dreaming or entirely lucid dreaming. And what lucid dreaming is it is gaining control over your astral body, which is level 4 of the light grid from the Akashic Records perspective, in that dimension. So for those of you who have experienced lucid dreaming, you may have been able to make yourself shrink or make yourself grow. You may have been able to give yourself additional limbs. There's all of these different things that you can do whilst you're lucid dreaming. Now, lucid dreaming is different to astral projection. So astral projection is where you consciously push out the astral body, so that level 4 of the light grid, into the astral plane. Lucid dreaming is something that happens only in the dream state, whereas astral projection can happen when you're in your conscious waking life, but the underlying connection is the same. It's working with the development of and conscious control of the astral body itself. Now, some of you may have had experiences via meditation or via different methods where you have gone into a more higher vibrational region or come into contact with higher vibrational beings. This is where we start to talk about the higher astral planes. And in the higher astral planes, it's much more akin to a fifth dimensional level, but it's still the astral plane. And I wanted to read to you a quote from the book Autobiography of a Yogi. If you haven't read Autobiography of a Yogi, it's one of those books that I would recommend to anybody on their spiritual journey. And if you want to dive deeper into this quote, it is chapter 43. And Yogananda says, "The astral day and night are longer than those on earth. The astral world is infinitely beautiful, clean, pure, and orderly. There are no dead planets or barren lands. The terrestrial blemishes, weeds, bacteria, insects, snakes are absent. The astral planets maintain the even temperature of an eternal spring with occasional luminous snow and rain of many coloured lights. Astral planets abound in opal lakes and bright seas and rainbow rivers." He then goes on to explain about the huge array of the different beings that inhabit the astral plane, and explains that different beings live on different planets in different regions, ultimately depending upon their karmic qualifications. And he notes, the good ones can travel freely, but the evil spirits are confined to limited zones. He also notes that astral beings dematerialize or materialize their form at will. These are all really important points that I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into in respect of our conversation today. The beautiful worlds and planets that he describes are what you experience when you connect into that higher astral plane. People will often refer to colours that they've never seen here on Earth, or features that we have on Earth, such as waterfalls and lakes, but that are much more colourful, much brighter, and just this feeling of expansiveness and complete connection to a frequency of love itself. Now, it's important to note where Yogananda says that the good ones can travel freely, but the evil spirits are confined to limited zones, because what this is going to help you understand is that depending upon where you're connecting into in the astral plane is going to determine the quality of information and connection that you have from certain beings, and also this ability of these astral beings to materialize or dematerialize at will for when we talk about trickster energies. I think Yogananda has explained the higher astral plane in far better and more beautiful terminology than I ever could. So let's now take a look at the lower part of the astral plane. In traditional esoteric systems, you may hear this referred to as the eighth sphere or the moon realm. And this lower astral plane is essentially the domain of all of the souls and beings who are connected to the devolutionary stream. When you have had a nightmare, for example, you may have experienced the lower astral plane. If you have taken some form of plant medicine and you have had what people refer to as a bad trip, it's often that you have connected into the lower astral plane as well. And you'll often find that when you're going through a period of shadow work, so that bringing the unconscious to light, you'll often have work to do connecting you into this lower astral plane to understand those parts of yourselves that you've hidden away and repressed. I am sure that you can see from this very brief overview of the different dimensions within the dimension of the astral plane that your experience of the astral plane can be completely different every time you enter the astral plane, either consciously or unconsciously. Because of the amount of difference in the experiences that you can have, it's always important to remember that the lesson of the astral plane is discernment. You're connecting into that plane and navigating through that realm is to learn discernment. And part of that learning discernment is connecting into different energies. And there are a whole host of different types of energies and beings that you can connect to in the astral plane, which we won't get into here today. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to just give you some discernment tips for if you are navigating the astral plane and you are connecting into different beings or to different energies, to help you feel into the question, is this energy or being connected to the evolutionary stream or the devolutionary stream? Is it trying to help me or is it trying to hinder me in respect of my own soul's evolution and my expansion of consciousness? As I said earlier, we're having this conversation to help you be empowered and have knowledge in respect of what is going on when you're connecting into this plane. It's not to scare you, it's not to worry you. This is all completely normal in respect of your soul's development and your expansion of your consciousness. So, tip number one in respect of developing this discernment is, does the energy or being that you're connecting into come across as being superior to you, or does it treat you as an equal? Higher beings who are here to support your evolution are never going to make you feel less than them. There's never going to be an air of superiority, no matter how much further in the evolutionary path they are than you. They are never going to make you feel less than them. One of the things that my students will often say when they're starting to connect into their own Akashic records and their guides is just how much love and support they feel. There is no judgment, no belittling, no criticizing from those beings. If you do feel judged, criticized, belittled, that the being or energy that you're connecting into is giving off this air of superiority, it's a really good sign that that being is of the devolutionary stream and it's wanting to connect into your energy for various different reasons. If you find that you're feeling that from an energy or a being, disconnect. Number 2 is a higher being connected to the evolutionary stream is going to constantly remind you that everything you need within you for this journey is within you. They are never going to tell you that there has to be some external force imposed upon you for your evolution. That doesn't mean that learning different systems, learning different practices aren't helpful. They absolutely are. But ultimately, everything you need on this journey is within you. And beings of the devolutionary stream will try to tell you that you need some form of change. So whether that's your DNA changed or you need to have something from outside of you to activate those internal gifts and skills. Tip number 3 is that being or energy that you're connecting into respectful of your free will, or is it telling you what to do? True guides, whether they are astral guides or higher spiritual realm guides, will always, always, always respect your free will. They will guide you, they will give you advice, they will give you things to consider, but they will not tell you what to do. If you connect into an energy who is giving you specific instructions, telling you what to do, disconnect. Tip number 4 involves Earth herself. Beings of the higher evolutionary stream are going to really empathize with you in respect of how hard Earth is. Earth is an extremely difficult school, and those higher evolutionary beings have so much respect for any soul who chooses to come down to the density of Earth and go through their soul's evolution here. Beings of the devolutionary stream will try to tell you that Earth is a prison planet and that you cannot escape it. So the higher beings will give you an empowering message. They totally understand how difficult it is, but you've got this. You can completely graduate out of the Earth school system. Whereas the beings of the devolutionary stream are going to try and convince you that somehow you're stuck or you're trapped in this incarnational cycle. The last tip I have for you is look at the effect on you and your life when you are connecting to and working with these different beings. If the being is of the evolutionary stream, you're going to feel uplifted, you're going to feel empowered, and the guidance and information that you are receiving is going to essentially bear fruits in the reality that you're experiencing. So you receive the guidance, you take the action, and ultimately it helps you to evolve and grow. If you're connecting to a being of the devolutionary stream, what's going to happen is you're going to feel drained afterwards. You may feel completely exhausted and wiped out from connecting into them, and a state of contraction. So it's normal when you're connecting into different energies to feel the physical effects of connecting into an energy because your physical form is quite dense in comparison to any of these different energies. But if you're connecting into a being from the devolutionary stream, you're going to feel this state of contraction, this disempowerment, this everything is just predetermined and what's the point of all of this? It's not a very nice feeling when you have connected into them. And then the effects of the guidance that you receive are going to show in your external reality. So you may receive some information, you may take action upon it, and it be completely out of alignment. And even when you're taking that action, you may feel like, I don't really think this is right. Again, it's that state of contraction versus that state of expansion. This is what we're looking for. Before I finish up, it is very important just to reiterate the fact that developing this discernment is an internal job, regardless of what a being or energy looks like, or says that they are, it's this internal navigation system and how it feels that you're looking for when it comes to discernment. As Yogananda put beautifully, beings of the astral plane can materialize and dematerialize at will, which gives rise to what you'll see referred to as trickster energies. So beings can pretend to look beautiful and golden and all of these things and actually be of the devolutionary stream. It's very, very important not to just take what a being or an energy tells you at face value and look to this discernment. There are fake versions of everything, including the Akashic Records, in the astral realm. And it's very important to remember that when you do come across certain energies. It can be really exciting when you start to develop and you start to connect into different energies. And I don't ever want to put anybody off doing that. But what I want you to do is to bring your discernment and your common sense to the practice and say, right, okay, how does this energy make me feel? What's the information that this is giving me? Rather than what does it look like or what does it say that it is? I hope that today's episode has really given you an overview and an understanding of the astral plane. Appreciate I have gone over my usual time limit on my solo episodes, so I do appreciate if you have stuck around to listen to this entire episode. As I said at the start, this is such a deep topic, and if you do want to do a deeper dive, do sign up for the membership. But I'm hoping that this episode has at least given you an overview and an understanding so that when you're connecting into these realms and you're starting to go through this part of your evolutionary process, that you're doing it in a way that you feel empowered, that you're going to be able to navigate it, because I promise you all have the ability to navigate your way through this. And completely normal if you connect into an energy or a being and a few weeks later you realize that actually that energy or being is not okay. That's part of this level of evolution. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean you should stop your spiritual development. It just means you're going through the process and learning. And learning and evolving is exactly what your soul is here to do. So keep up the good work. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I would really appreciate everybody reviewing the podcast, leaving me comments, and sharing it with your friends. And I shall see you next week for the next episode.